welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is part two of a three-part series. If you missed part one, we talked a lot about baselining your tech team, the value in doing that, and really what you can hope to get out of it. But today, and back in the living room here, joined with my colleague Mark Guiditta, and we're going to be talking about courses, training, what's actually out there. And we'll cover three distinctive areas that I think will be helpful if you're looking and considering how should I look at training solutions, what types of courses are out there, and what's really the way to approach this. And so we'll talk about the state of training, what's currently out there, which includes some virtual, but there's other areas as well. We'll talk about a certain type of training, so hands-on training, which, from a personal standpoint, I think, growing up in school, hands-on stuff, nothing like it. Of course, there's instructor-led, which is great, but we'll talk a little bit more about how hands-on training actually works and the different types of things you can do with it. And then finally, I think there's sometimes misconceptions about when you're looking for a training solution, what should be your objective? How exactly should you talk about, the end goal that you're looking to meet? And so we'll probably cover 10, 15 minutes here, keep it super casual, just like last time. I'll flip it over to Mark in a minute, but when we talk about the state of training, Mark, I think one of the things that I've found just in conversations with prospects, customers, spend a lot of time on the phone is it's just not always common knowledge of what's out there and what works best. And so I'll have a little piece to say about this as well, but, what are your thoughts around, what's currently out there, and really, in your opinion, what works best of all the training options available?
That's a great question. Thanks, Benny. So I've had the luxury of working in this space for almost 10 years now, and I came from the instructor-led space. And some of the challenges that I saw with clients is there's no really measurable way to see how much knowledge was gained in an in-person class. It's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose for 3 or 5 days. And if there's nothing that you can do to measure your skills beforehand, it could be way over your head. And then, coming out of that class, how do we know that we know the people are there, but how do we know that they actually acquired skills and they're going to immediately be able to make an impact on their job? From a pro standpoint, you are getting everybody together. There's camaraderie there. There's people that work really, really well with ILT, and even whether it's instructor-led, virtual, or in person, I think there is value in getting the team together. They have the ability to ask live questions. So I would say that companies today are definitely using some sort of ILT, whether it's instructor-led or in person, meaning virtual.
Yeah, it's funny because, of course, we live in a world these days where, going to the office is well, seemingly, hopefully, on the rise. Instructor-led in classroom training is great. And, I know some companies, the way they approach this, they'll bring in somebody or a group of trainers, and, they'll do a 4-day boot camp. They'll really get people grinding for many hours in a day, which is awesome, of course. But again, there's drawbacks to that. And being in person is, for something like that's never as easy as, having it on demand, doing it, at your leisure, in the comfort of your own home. What can I say? And so, from an online training perspective, that there's different slices, right? So there's the self-study aspect of things. So, essentially reading through the material on your own, sort of studying up kind of in a traditional way. There's the instructor-led piece. Again, great instructors, great content, great learning at the end of the day. And then there's ways to validate learning. So there's quizzes, there's exams, and you can even wrap these things together into what we call here is like a learning path. So something that is a complete track from beginning to end, and it gets you from learning the material, hands-on stuff, all the way to the validation of, have you actually learned this, or do you need to go back and kind of restudy, if you will? And learning paths are a great tool to kind of guide the learning, but either way, just different ways to think about the types of courses, the types of training that's out there. Of course, as they say, different strokes work for different folks. I'm big on hands-on training for anything I do, but for some folks, just the instructor-led may be good enough. But let's talk about the hands-on training piece because, I hate to say it, I'm biased, of course, but I just think this is such a powerful way to get people into training. And so when we talk about things like a hands-on lab, for example, Mark, from what you've seen, either from customer examples or, just really what it is, I guess maybe that's the best place to start. So hands-on labs, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, hands-on labs are a crucial way to learn. You want your folks to work in environments that look like the ones that they're working in their day-to-day. So what is a hands-on lab? It's very simple. It's access to an environment that is provisioned in the public cloud. It also could be a command line interface for programming languages, but it gives students the ability to learn in a safe and secure environment. And there's a couple of different ways that you can run these labs, but from a core, what is a hands-on lab? It's a safe area to learn new skills from a hands-on standpoint.
Yeah, no, it's super cool seeing it for myself. Not necessarily a tech background from myself, but super cool to see that come together. Can you give us like at least just a peek behind the curtain? One of our customers and kind of how they're actually thinking about how they're actually using these, because again, I know that there's different ways to kind of approach it.
Yeah, great question. So from a client perspective and the way that they're using hands-on labs, there's really three core ways. It's how do we get people to get into hands-on labs and consume content that is going to be relevant to their job, and also not just throw them into the fire. I think that it's really important to learn the concepts in step by step, maybe with some screenshots, guided instructions. So I'd say that clients are doing that one way, where they follow along with instructions, they're able to complete that. Where I'd say that, hate to be biased here for a second, but where Cloud Academy takes that to the next level is we kind of validate that back to the student. So it's important to validate that all of your hard work has been completed. A couple of other ways, lab challenges. So these are going to be more of like scenario-based learning, and clients, especially I would say in the consulting vertical, really appreciate this, because typically consulting companies, GSIs, partners in that area, they want to get their people certified, but when they put them on a client project, it doesn't mean that they have that experiential training. They have their folks that have their certification, but how do we get them to actually migrate to the cloud for the customers that they're supporting? So a lab challenge is basically an area where you're looking to complete a scenario, or there's maybe something broken that needs to be fixed. So that a really great way to really reinforce the training and test your practical skills is we're going to take off those training wheels, and you're just going to go into the environment, and you're going to be validated with a pass or fail at the end, based on best practices. A third way, actually there's a third and a fourth way, lab playgrounds. So playgrounds are safe environments. So where clients really use this successfully is, let's say you're a large financial institution and you have specific services that are approved or not approved in your public cloud environment. Sometimes you can't even try out new services at work and see how they apply to your business. Maybe there's that next big thing, next big product that's really going to take your company to the next level. So a playground environment gives you access to a wide variety of services to explore and learn in a safe environment with no particular outcome that you're looking to achieve. And I would say the last way, and this is becoming increasingly popular, especially with our client base, is how do we take these labs and make them specific to the work that we do? So the ability to customize labs. So here's a use case of what we're actually doing with these tools and services, and can we put together a lab that mirrors that? And that's becoming an increasingly popular way that I'm seeing a big need for in the market today.
Yeah, and just like anything else, of course, the hands-on piece is great. You operating in a real environment that emulates what you would see sort of in the work environment that you actually exist in, but having the ability to customize that and really make it match up with the real world that your team's going to work in. There's just something so cool about that. And, from a training perspective, for me anyways, that's really the holy grail of where the learning and then the application of it, it really comes together nicely. So lab playgrounds also sound fun. So, it sounds like a good time, needless to say. All kidding aside, one of the things that we talked about the state of training, how hands-on training really works. But the last thing is, I think I've been on enough calls, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Mark, where we'll have folks come in and they'll be very prescriptive about what they're looking for. So they'll say, that they're just looking to get that they just looking for instructor-led training in AWS, or they're looking for certification prep because they need to get more folks certified. I think one of the things we often find is the goals and objectives there, not to say that they're backwards, but they may be thinking about this in the wrong way. And so what would you say is kind of the misconception there when you think about cloud training, tech training, and what the goals really should be, even though, of course, certifications are part of it, what the goals really should be when you're looking and evaluating these kinds of systems?
Yeah,
Platforms.
absolutely. From an organizational perspective, I think companies need to take a laser focus and look on how the services that they're adopting are actually going to apply to their business. Just certifying, 50 or 100 people in a specific cloud certification doesn't mean that they're actually going to be practitioners in that environment. So as far as what I think would be an ideal solution is, yes, certifications are absolutely critical. I think that we need to validate back to the business that we have qualified individuals to work here, but taking it to the next level is, how do we take that certification prep or take that skills-based learning and apply it to our day-to-days? So companies that are doing this really, really well, they're taking a laser look at what their job roles are and what that career path looks like for those particular job roles. So if you're a software engineer level 1, for example, you need to have front end and back end skills. Maybe you also need to learn public cloud. It's really honing in on what particular skills individuals need to learn, and not sending somebody through, a long learning path just to get certified. What would make more of a faster impact on the business is tailoring a learning path into a training plan for that individual, with weekly time commitments that's super aligned to their job role. So they're going in, they're consuming training, they're blending it into their natural workflow, and that's immediately going to have an impact on their job role because they're taking something that is totally related versus just an out of the box certification.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's worth noting, something that we do here that's related to that, which is, what we call fast track certification programs. And, I think that's really where things start to get interesting, because not only are you combining customized training, but you're actually getting customized training from an actual instructor who's there really at your disposal in terms of making sure that the training translates directly and it's coming straight from them, not necessarily something that has already been recorded and maybe customizable, but still it is fresh custom training, literally led by an instructor. So just touch on that quickly. I know we're running short on time here because I want to get to the next piece of this and how we'll think about the next conversation that we'll have.
Yeah, our specific fast track program is really the best of all worlds. Maybe it's towards a particular certification, but our instructors that are teaching these courses, they're solutions architects. They've been principal architects. They've been architecting environments for 20 plus years in many cases for organizations. So not only can they help their students identify and pass a certification, but it can be more specific to what they're actually utilizing the services for and make very specific recommendations on best practices and the way that they're utilizing these services, especially across industry. We always want to promote learning and we always want to promote getting certified. But if you're certified and you're working at a large biotech company, the way that they're using those cloud services is probably different than a bank uses them or what a consulting firm needs to learn. But ultimately, that certification is valuable. We want to validate back to the business, as I said early on, that they have skills in these particular areas. But the fast track program basically is a series of live events with Q&A with instructors, and it really drives home the ability to achieve certifications at a rapid pace, but also is teaching the skills along the way to our students that are most critical to their jobs.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love those programs. I think they're so cool, and I know it's a lot of work on the content team's part to put those together, but I think we're doing some awesome things there. Okay, so that'll wrap up our conversation here, really about courses, different types of training, and again, if you missed baseline, you'll be able to. We'll send you a link to this either way, so you'll be able to watch that, just get a sense of what baselining is. Next time we will cover the management inside of reporting side of skills intelligence and really how this all comes together. How you can actually see the results, how you can see skill growth, how you can analyze. To Mark's point, if you're ready to take on that next project or initiative, and know that, your people are ready, the training, has been there, and that, the capability is where it needs to be, especially if it's, something as arduous as a migration, going public cloud, whatever the case may be. The reporting side is a huge piece of this. Hope this was good for you. Once again, Benny Bridger, Cloud Academy, Mark Guiditta as well, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.